Hi, everyone. Welcome to the UFO live stream. As you all know, we're having Cindy Carter back on again. And so this time around, I'm going to be watching the stream very closely because last time she had warned me ahead of time, letting me know that there would be some interference. And this whole time I've had the show, everything has been always going smoothly. And this past Wednesday, I had another open lines for another 2.5 hours without any problems. And for some reason, that particular day, all kinds of things were going on and the stream kept dropping. So anyway, I have Cindy back on. We're going to be talking about Sasquatch and a lot more things. Last time, I believe we covered origins of or who the Sasquatch are, the different clans, portals, and I think also some of the other happenings like eye shine and what that means. And so anyway, this will be kind of a part two continuation of where we left off, and she will be going into many different things today, or whatever else might come up. And I'm letting you know ahead of time. If you have any questions, please put them already in the chat. Make sure that you have the 3 little stars before your questions, so I know that it's directed to Cindy. So then that way, because we might, depends on what you might ask, it might jot the conversation into a whole new direction and open up more information to be shared. So please get those ready. We're going to get going first with a little bit more information, whatever else Cindy wanted to start out with, and we'll pretty much start with that. So let me go back here. Hi, Cindy. How are you? Welcome back.
Oh, thank you, Adnan. I appreciate you having me back.
Okay, good deal. All right. Well, everything's running great, and I figured let's not worry about that. We'll just keep it going. And so, I know last time we were talking about specifically. I don't know if this is something you want to get into right away regarding the happenings of the different agencies that happen to show up at the specific time when there's some kind of sightings with the Sasquatch, or do you want to go into some of the other information first?
No, that's fine. I can go back and reiterate that one. It was a story I was telling about a researcher team that was doing something that I wouldn't agree with, but they were doing this anyway. They were out at night at a known Sasquatch area, and where they had had numerous sightings, and maybe information had got out to others about that place. But anyway, they were there with drone cameras, with the FLIR night camera, and so night vision. So what they were doing was sending the drone out, and they found the Sasquatch. It showed the image, and it was obvious that the Sasquatch was getting quite agitated by its running style. Instead of running straight, it was starting to dart and try to get away from the drone. They're highly sensitive beings, so they do kind of work with sonar. So here one is feeling the energy of infiltration, because that's what that is. And so the infiltration was right there. They were running from it. And as they started running, they saw on the camera an area that came open, like a white area, like in an oval. Uh, and it was just there in front of the Sasquatch. Here comes the Sasquatch running, and it ran right into this white area on the camera and disappeared. So they assumed that it was a portal, and they got the drone back. It was quite a lengthy time to get the drone back, and right as they landed the drone, here come, I don't know which agencies, but they were obviously ready to, you know, come after this evidence, if there was any, because I feel that the frequency fence had been infiltrated. So when that is broken through frequency, through energy, we have a matrix, and the matrix is a certain frequency, and it's a kind of a low frequency. When higher frequency, exits the matrix, it is known on a frequency level that's quite wide with the deep state. So, some investigators came, they took the card out of the camera and said, "See you later." I think he got his drone back, but so he knew then, he wasn't sure, had someone told someone about it. He, wasn't sure about that, but I definitely know about a frequency fence. And so there's a high possibility that that could have happened.
So the frequency fence, just to clarify, are you referring to this grid pattern that's all over the world? So that you're
Yes.
saying that they're kind of based on that interruption, they kind of know, oh, okay, something is going on there. Let's go to this location.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, yeah, because it's all based on frequency levels, hertz frequency, amplitude, speed of light, the luminosity levels. They have, you know, such technologies. These are, extraterrestrial technologies that they can use to ascertain what's happening on the fence or above the earth. I consider the earth to have a frequency fence around it, which kind of keeps it held in, um, so that we're, part of gravitational forces, which is not natural.
Are you talking about alien technology, meaning the different agencies that
They
they?
use those,
Oh,
yes.
okay. And I guess
So
they obtained it by what, like coming across the technology, crash ships, or actual collaboration, like some of
I,
us know.
yeah,
Uh,
I think it's collaboration.
okay.
I think it's collaboration. I think, we've been doing a lot of collaboration for, several decades with ETs on a level that we have been trading technologies for humans, uh, you know, um, technologies for testing, technologies for whatever. And it takes humans to operate a lot of the technologies that are ET based because they're, carbon based. They're not plasma machines. They can't be plasma machines here on Earth on the 3D plane. We have to build them
You
into
mean,
something.
so you're referring to you're saying that quite possibly certain agencies were what in exchange for technology, here's these undesirable humans or something. What is that in relation to this hybrid program, or are you referring to something different?
Uh, I'm not sure exactly where you're going with that.
Because
With
you were
the
because maybe I misunderstood, because you were saying that you said something like they received the technology through
Yeah,
collaboration in exchange for humans. Is that what
humans.
you?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Eisenhower Exchange. What is it, 1952,
Oh, I
42,
see.
whatever.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Good.
that
I'm glad we
agreement.
clarified. Okay.
Yeah, that agreement that was made with reptilian forces that allowed them to experiment on humans. Um,
Okay.
and so, I think we did some trading then. That kind of brings me into something I wanted to bring up, but wasn't sure where it would be fit in. This is a perfect place. Um, I was going to talk about fourth dimensional doorways, and the Sasquatch certainly know how to utilize doorways and portals. And so, think about how does the deep state understand a portal? How does the deep state understand how a Stargate works? Well, they know full well how to use them. So we're now into development of, well, not development of, it's utilization of high technologies in military forces that use, let's say, directed energy weaponry, um, and say helicopters, Black Hawks, through fourth dimensional doorways. So, say somebody breaks the frequency fence way over here, and there's no military anywhere close. Well, they can actually do what's somewhat like a jump room in a fourth dimensional space and send that whole helicopter and the crew through a doorway and open it somewhere else. I know this because I witnessed it. And so this is how they can come into a space and be right there when something happens. If a UFO lands, if a UFO falls, you wonder how our jets are on top of a UFO as quickly as possible. Well, it's because they have fourth dimensional doorway access. And that can come out of mountains. Um, it sounds crazy, but you can actually, there are mountains that open up big steel doors. That's a fourth dimensional doorway.
Oh,
And
wow.
so,
Yeah.
yeah,
This. Well, I mean, there would be, I guess, quite a day of reckoning if ever there is this disclosure that everybody wishes, I mean, this all is going to have to come out in the open. And how do you explain that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just so multi-layered. We can talk about Sasquatch, and we can talk about Bigfoot, but what are we talking about as a deeper understanding? What we're really talking about is kind of like first contact with our ET brothers. They're the closest thing we have to our ET brothers in bodies because they're partly ET. And we're here to be in first contact with this humanity that has a love for us that maybe we forgot. But a lot of us are understanding and remembering. The remembrance is what um, I am just amazed at all the people I meet all across the world, like through social media or through like events that I might go to, that are absolutely brought to their spiritual needs through interactions with Sasquatch.
But
Well,
you're
this
not,
isn't like,
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Regarding, just real quick, so regarding that, these different groups, you're not talking about contact with the group that already made these deals. Apparently, they don't have the best interest in mind for us.
no,
Okay.
no, no, no.
I'm sorry, please continue.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's just an interesting idea for us to get into a little deeper understanding of why are we actually communicating, interacting, having what I'm calling a phenomenon, even though it's been going on in some people's lives their whole life. I know people that have had Sasquatch in their life their whole life, through their family line, and they learned about it, learned about how to act with them, how to barter with them. Um, People here in Tennessee, people in Arkansas, in Kentucky, and all over the world are having these interactions that are like family clans with family clans. So it becomes deeper understanding. Well, it's not just dealing with a being on the earth that can go inside the earth. This is a highly spiritual understanding of consciousness, because this consciousness has the ability to understand itself as source. Well, can a marlin do that? I don't know. Maybe a dolphin can, from Sirius B. But I don't know that we have any representation here on Earth as sentient to source energy, the availability to be as sentient as source, to use every aspect of our given skills and consciousness can be utilized by a Sasquatch. And that's kind of hard for some people to understand. They just think that they're smelly and angry and yell a lot and bang on trees. But that is like totally not what they are as an essence. They're a loving family type kindness. And then once they know you in one lifetime, they will continue to know you in another lifetime. And it happens over and over with people that they have the same occurrence happen from lifetime to lifetime with Sasquatch. And it makes the remembrance deeper and deeper, where you have no idea why you're attracted to these beings or why they've even come near you. Why did you get pushed, to see them, or why are you enamored with them? It's quite the pull, and it's a spiritual pull from lifetimes and lifetimes.
Well, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Well, I mean, it's kind of nice knowing maybe next time around you don't have to go through all these different challenges to make contact sooner. You might remember things quicker or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
so, do you want to then go into more about what else regarding the three-letter agencies and the connection with Sasquatch?
Yeah, I'll briefly do that.
Okay.
I'll say that this is a subject they do not like. And so this is where I talk about the deep state and their involvement with Sasquatch. Um, I've known for quite a long time now that the three-letter agencies, and now I'm talking about any and all of them are involved at given levels. And we're talking about galactic involvement, nefarious involvement, as well as earthly involvement that's nefarious. So what they have done is the deep state is involved in trafficking, human trafficking, at a level that is so grand that they had to come up with great scapegoats for explanation, of course. So all the missing people in the woods, of course, are now thought of as being snatched by a Bigfoot or snatched by a Sasquatch. Now, this is happening, all over the world, where the fear is now brought to Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and it was put out as a social media kind of an AI, so that anyone that put up any videos about Sasquatch or Bigfoot, these bots would come up and just start spewing information about humans being taken about Sasquatch by Sasquatch. And I just knew that it was a deep state involvement, and it just came up truer and truer for me when I saw it.
Well, it seems
Human trap. Yeah, and so here's the other part. They had to also, make the Sasquatch into a very nefarious and fearful being. So they did that through all social media, through television. And I know I have friends that are, very good researchers. And these researchers were approached by very large companies in the movie industry to do movies. And they actually would have changed the whole truth of what actually happened in any of these stories to their own truth. And they would conglomerate like 8 stories into one occurrence. And it was totally made up. And this happened to, I know, 3 different researchers. So
oh
it's
wow.
just a false narrative that's been brought up. And now the other false narrative is in religion. So that the bots started bringing on anything mentioning religion or spirituality was brought into Bigfoot and Sasquatch like they were fallen angels. They were the fallen ones, and they were Nephilim. And so anyone who has a religious bend is being taught that the Bigfoot are nefarious, yeah, like giants. But even though they would have walked with giants at one time, I don't feel that any of that is true. And it's just a narrative that our deep state is putting out. But I know a lot of people kind of buy into that because they're into mainstream media. So anyone that's not into mainstream media is getting another story. I will say that when I came out with my interview about my interaction, I had a YouTube channel that was just spiritual alchemy podcast, and I put it out, and it went viral in one day. I had like 100,000 views in one day, and they demonetized it and took it off the search bar. Like you couldn't find it for a long time. They don't want this information out. So that's why I feel it's really important for us all to communicate with each other. If the subject comes up, if it's not a, derogatory or sarcastic conversation, you might be able to discuss the fact that they are compassionate and kind all over the world.
Well, it seems it's very unfortunate that all these 3 different letter agencies and these different hidden parts of every country's government, always have to, I guess, relate the aliens or the Sasquatch to be something of a threat. Just recently was so disappointing. I only saw it, so don't take my word for it because I only saw the title. I'm very careful about what I generally talk about because I want to see the actual video or the footage for myself before I could speak more on this. But the title generally said, and again, this could probably not be true because I did not see it for myself, but I will, because it's just something I've had so many other things on my hand. But it was even on Fox. The title said Tucker Carlson is wondering or asking the Pentagon how they're going to address the UFO threat. And I'm just like, here we go. After all these years, now, You know,
Now there's a
Mr.
threat.
Ufologist, 5 seconds, you know, in the scheme of this 100-year plus research and all these people that have done all this research, he gets involved and, you know, immediately has the audacity to label it as that, if that's what he said. So again, I hope not. I will go back and I want to actually see that segment for myself. But at least for the sake of this conversation, you know, it is something that we've heard many other times before, that they are wanting or planning to just create more of a fear aspect to these different possible contexts, whether it be Sasquatch or alien.
Yeah, yeah. Because what would happen to humanity if we learned more about them? Well, we would learn that we are not the puppets for the deep state. We would learn our true powers
Right.
because they understand their powers. Um, they understand the full level of their consciousness, and we don't. We haven't been kept from it. So when our remembrance kicks in, it's going to kick in hard, and that's when we can unify. We really can't unify yet until we get more congenial with our forest brothers and sisters, our star brothers and sisters, because they're here. They're
Right.
here on Earth too.
So, Cindy, what was the next part that you wanted to go into? I'm sorry, I didn't remember
Oh,
all the things we
that's
were
okay.
discussing.
I think it was. I could give you a couple of healing examples.
Yeah, please do.
Uh, um, the Sasquatch are very well known for healing. It's an amazing thing to hear people's stories of healing that has happened with them. It's sometimes spiritual healing, it's sometimes physical healing. I have talked to, I don't know, dozens of people who have told me stories of being healed by Sasquatch. Now, this could be someone laying in the woods at night, sleeping, and then being healed overnight. This could be someone in an area where the Sasquatch are, and they etherically come near you and heal you, or they can come to you in dream time and heal you. And so, or you can have a remembrance of a past life where they healed you. So I have an instance where I was at a Sasquatch conference in Washington, and there was a big amphitheater. And during the nighttime, the Sasquatch you could feel them there. We could take photos. There were huge heads of Sasquatch in the sky. They could project their image and their consciousness. It's quite amazing space we were in. And it was late at night, and there were only maybe a handful of people up on this theater. I was with a husband and wife, and there were some other people there. And we came up to sit and just feel the energy. Well, all of a sudden, I felt something huge pushing me down from this level of the amphitheater down to the next level. I was like, gosh, what? And I just went to the next level, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I figured it was Sasquatch, but I couldn't figure out why. I was being pushed. You just don't ask, you just do. So I was being pushed down, and I finally got pushed down to my friends who were sitting together, husband and wife. And I got pushed right next to my friend, the wife. And I could feel, you have to leave now. In my head, it was mind speak. You have to leave now. And I was like, we just got here. I was bummed. So I took my friends by the hand and I said, we have to leave now. And she got up to get her husband, and it was not his turn. He was not supposed to leave. He couldn't leave. He was like frozen. So we left down the hill, and we left him there for probably an hour. And he came down finally. And what had happened was he's a horse chiropractor. So he had like a shoulder injury that was bothering him. And he could feel the energy of the Sasquatch here over him, and then could feel the energy of a hand go under his scapula in his shoulder. And the energy went through his arm, and the pain left him. And this is his first interaction, and he was quite amazed. And so he got up and left, and of course, he was tearful. When you have that level of healing, it's almost like an angel just healed you.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? And so that was one example of a healing that I was kind of part of to witness, and it was quite amazing the emotion level that was involved. Um, and then let's see, this is not a healing as much as it was just a fun story. I have a friend in Belgium named Pat, and he has horses, and he has horses on his property, and he communicates with Sasquatch there in Belgium, and they frequently come and braid the horses' manes, just fully braid them. And it's kind of not like the way we would braid them. It's kind of like a little bit of a jumble, but then there's true braids in there. And he's found that on so many different occasions that he sent me a video and I put it on my YouTube. You can see that it's just it's a kindness level, like it's very sweet. It was just one little sweet braid. It's not what other people are saying braids are used for. I won't even comment about that. But that just like a sweet story. The the healings, though, I've heard from other people that once they had contact with Sasquatch, either in dream time or in an interaction, say, with them etherically, that they were in a different space in their head afterwards. They were maybe closer to their heart space. They were more loving and kind. If they had been an angry person or agitated person or sad, that kind of took it away. So it's almost like an upliftment of energy when they choose to interact with you. And so, who do they interact with? Anyone. Do you have to be special? No. No. Do you have to be only of pure light? No. Do you have to have a good moral background? Yes. Did you have to have, could you have done something awful the day before or that day? Yes. They are just like any sentient human. We have activities that we're involved in and activities we're not involved in, but they don't require us to be consciously better than others or more clear spiritually or woke. They don't care.
Right.
They care about the love that happens between and the communication that happens between the two.
Well, so I think I asked you that last time, and I'm mainly asking because I wanted to build on that, and I'm not 100% um, remembering a week ago what you said specifically about this. But I think I asked you something about, is it up to, will the Sasquatch become more prevalent and be more and more visible out there, or is it kind of up to us to uh, take that first step to say, okay, we're ready for more contact?
I think it's a two-way street. I'm hearing from people who, in the interactions they're having, that the Sasquatch are being more forward with them than they ever have. And it's like they're feeling the understanding too. They're feeling the connection should be happening also. So it is partly our responsibility to show them kindness and compassion back, right? It's like meeting them with an olive branch. If we've bartered with them for ages and ages, here we need to meet them with an olive branch and say, here we are in pure kindness and compassion at this very important stage of our humanity's process where we have to learn peace and love now, right now. Can you help us? And they can help us. And they can help you individually. They can help you with spiritual matters that you might be involved in. They might help you with trauma clearings. They might help you understand your like place in society. They might help you understand nature better. I mean, you can ask, and I'm saying these things because each individual person has their own individual connection. So there's no manual or book out there that can say, well, this means this, and this means this, and this means this, because it's completely subjective when two consciousnesses meet. Um, who's going to limit the conversation by putting it in a book of
Right.
how to act, or, you know?
And I think you said last time that they're not necessarily too keen on gifts, simply the presence, your presence and your intention.
Yes.
That's all that's really needed to potentially start some kind of communication. You don't necessarily have to come bringing gifts like a bribe in some way.
Yeah, and
Because I
some
mean,
of them feel that
we've
way, I'm sure. It's like, are you bribing me?
right,
Wow. But, it's okay to bring gifts. It's like, they understand we're human. We have limitations. They understand this, and they understand that we need validation. And that's why we do gifts. Sometimes they can enjoy these gifts, but I got kind of caught up in the beginning when I was dealing with the Sasquatch, that I felt this need to assist them, like, especially with the story I was involved in. I felt, oh my God, this family got displaced. This Sasquatch family got displaced. How can I help them? I was like thinking of, should I like write a grant to buy this property so I can sit on it so they can have it forever? I mean, crazy stuff. But then,
right,
Kiwoni is the one that told me, do not worry about what a Sasquatch needs or wants. That is not your concern. And we'd all get caught up in that. Once we get into a little bit of a communication, we feel like we have to have that communication to live, to breathe. And some people get, very myopic about their Sasquatch experiences and don't look at other things, which they
right,
should, because Sasquatch can be all encompassing, but there is a life. You have one.
right. So, Cindy, is there anything else you wanted to cover? Because then I was going to ask you one more question and give an opportunity for everyone else watching to submit their questions. I figured we can go into some Q&A, and I'm sure they'll jot us into new directions.
Sure. I just wanted to kind of mention one story I have on my YouTube channel that
Sure.
somebody could go and look at. It's the Vietnam vet named Dale, who holds a Sasquatch baby. And it's quite an amazing story. I won't ruin it for you because it's a nice story, but he's a logger in Vancouver Island, and he's been logging a lot of years, and he knows what the Sasquatch, where they live and what they're doing, and he just has always lived with them and among them, and never really had too much interaction other than saying hello and moving on his way. But one day he had a huge interaction. It was with a baby, a mother, and a cougar. So you could go and look at that one. It's quite a good story.
Oh, okay. And you said that is on your
On my YouTube.
on your website,
Yeah.
YouTube.
On my YouTube.
Yes, and anyone else watching too, in the description, there's Cindy has submitted all the different sites and avenues and things that she's involved in. So please go check it out, and the YouTube channel is there as well. So, I would like to focus some attention on all the guests I usually have, because I wouldn't have them on if they wouldn't have some interesting things to share. So, anyways, do you want me to go ahead and start with the first question?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, this one is that I can tell. I don't know if there's some first ones previously, but this one is from Basil Sorbet. Said, could they protect someone from being abducted, for instance, while hiking in the woods?
I am certain that probably has happened. There has been stories of being protected by other animals, by being protected by cliffs, falling off cliffs, being protected by running rapids in water. So I could believe that. I haven't heard that exact story, but I would believe it.
Okay, we might have jumped a bit too early for everyone. I also noticed when it comes to these Q&As, people love to just sit back and listen and want everyone else asking questions. And then there's those that just like really just want to know. But anyway, regarding the the question I wanted to ask, maybe to give him more time to submit the questions. So we talked about different clans, and I was calling the communities, and someone in the chat, they were like, they're clans. I'm like, okay, sorry, they're clans. They Is there always a prevalent group in many of the different areas, or are there kind of known to be this clan is kind of going to cover this northwest side of USA, and then this clan will be in Asia, and that clan, and so on? Is that such a grouping in, if you can
Mm,
call that, or is it just kind of sporadic from, I guess, that differs from Sasquatch to Sasquatch?
yeah, I think it's different. But just like we are so different from region to region to region, we might look a little bit different, a little bit the same when we are from the south than from the north. I mean, we might have different colorations. Same thing happens with Sasquatch. I know I've talked to some people from Australia, and they say that, the Sasquatch grow taller, in parts of Australia where the trees are taller, and they grow shorter where the scrub is shorter. So that's just their physical height. Well, what about their understanding of each other? Well, it's regional, as in like family units. So they do a lot of traveling. There are a lot of corridors. I know that a lot of people talk about the Pacific Northwest corridor and some of the Midwest corridors, especially in the Ozarks too. There's a lot of passageways where they, come and go from season to season. And so I feel like it's migratory, and there's probably a lot of bartering, but I think they stick to their own kind of clan. Um, some clans, like we just call them clans because that's what feels proper, and a lot of people have used that same verbiage over and over all over the world. Because it's more than just a generational family unit. It's usually added other units, other family, other people. I call them people. They are people. They're forest people. It's hard to just call them Sasquatch because they feel like a person to me. But the
Okay.
clans can have special things that they're involved in. According to, like, can say lineage. Maybe one's lineage was stargates and portals, and they have a keen understanding of those, and they can disappear at will. Maybe others had a keen understanding of sonar ability or have that ability, just like humans. Some of us are psychic, some of us aren't as psychic, even though we have the ability. All of us have it. Same with Sasquatch. They all have the same abilities, whether they utilize them or not. So some have specialties: disappearance, levitation, comedy. There's some that are just like comedians. Um,
Yeah, that's interesting. You say that it's almost kind of like I mean, some people are athletic and can run a lot faster than most people on the planet, and
mhm.
while others, specialize in other things. So it would only be, I guess, natural, even with an advanced race like them, that they would still have different, I guess I wouldn't call them people, different entities concentrating on different things.
Yeah, different variations of their consciousness. And just like us, we're individuals and we have our own likes and dislikes, and they're the same way. And so, we can take it into, well, how far do they want to communicate with us? Well, I just talked to a researcher today that I was in the Ozarks with, and he told me that they have spoken English to him in response to his speaking into the woods. They have responded back in English. So this is not the only ones. I mean, there are people. Mike Patterson in Ontario is one of the um, like most involved with one Sasquatch that's been documented, and his name is Nefertia, and he's watched him grow and watched him talk. And I think I was a little I bogged up what I was talking about, that that being before. His name is Nefertia, and he would call Mike. He would call him Mike. You can hear it on some of the videos that he has, and so it's the resonance. Just feels so true. And, I know it's true for me, but that's all really any of us can do about Sasquatch, Bigfoot, um, is to know that they're true and know that they're real. When you do that, they can become real to you. Well, does that mean it's a fantasy? No, because they're interdimensional. They can come into a space and bang on my window right now and scream into this window and make some prints and some prints in the lawn, maybe even one print in the lawn. They're known for doing that. How do they do that? Just one interdimensional foot was because they just brought the consciousness of the foot imprint like sonar and printed it for you. It's for us,
Right,
it's for
right,
us to
right.
see. It's like kind of like a game. Some of them think it's quite fun. Some of them don't want to
Well,
be near you at all.
right. Yeah, we talked about that last time because I was asking you about that. Is there what the consensus was? Are there some groups that just want to stay away from humans and others that want to try to make more contact and interact?
Yeah, even at one trip, I went into the Ozarks, and even though this was a very friendly family unit that we were coming upon, and they were very playful with us because there were some juveniles involved. They were throwing rocks at our tent and throwing rocks into our four-wheeler, and it was just kind of a playful event. But we got a little too close to the elders area, and when we got to the top of the mountain to kind of hang with the elders, we were sent off that mountain within 2 minutes, maybe. A
Mm.
typhoon, hurricane, tornado came out of nowhere and was a black cloud above us. And if we hadn't gotten off that mountain right then, we would have been stuck there because it was a slippery, slippery ride down, quite a long ride down the mountain. But those elders did not want us there. So what did they do? They commanded wind, power, rain.
Well, it's funny. The next question was actually from I lost it. Oh, Cooper Young was basically wanting to know, can Sasquatch manipulate the weather?
Yeah. And I was scared to death going down that four wheeler, but screaming, happy all the way. It's kind of interesting to be scared and be happy, but at the same time. But it was happening, and you can go watch that video too. I've got a video on YouTube about my trip to the Ozarks, but that just proved to me that they know the intention of every person involved. So if you are deciding that you're going to, get a group of people and go out into the woods because you felt that there was some kind of activity going on, you can first see that there are tree marks, there are trees bowed, there are trees in laid in glyphs. Well, if you've got that inkling and you want to go into an area, well, it is a really good idea to go there in the clearest of mind, to not go there as an angry person and to not bring an angry person or say someone who has emotional issues into the deep woods with you. um, yeah.
Okay.
That's It's just a good idea not to.
The other question that coming through is from V, and I'm not exactly sure if this is a misspell. So I've been I'm staring at it, trying to formulate to figure out what this person might have meant. It basically says, "Is M First Nation?" I don't know if she's saying "I am First Nations" or are. Anyway, the way it's written, "Is M First Nations?" We call Bigfoot Uncle Sasquatch. Are you familiar with this
Yes.
term, and have you worked with any
Yes.
tribes?
Yes, I have worked with several tribes that have come to me. A couple of First Nations tribes and then a couple of U.S. tribes. One of them came to me because he was the land, like he was the keeper of the land. It was an elder, and he was the keeper of the land, and there was some unusual activity going on the land. The Sasquatch were starting to get upset that we're on the land because of nearby encroachment And so there was some nefarious activities there, and so I had to kind of explain to him how to change the alchemy of the space so that the Sasquatch would feel more comfortable to stay or remain. And he did that. Within 24 hours, the Sasquatch came back. But the connection, but and I have heard the elders speak of Uncle Sasquatch. I know that they feel them as family, and that's why they don't necessarily want to talk about them. If you're just kind of at a reservation and you just happen to come upon someone and ask them a question, they might just look at you
Mm.
and not say a word. It's just they have a keen respect for keeping them close and keeping them safe because of their long history with them.
Okay. Oh yeah, and I didn't look too far enough. Right under it, it said there was a correction, and the sentence was supposed to be "I am First Nations." Okay, so sorry, V. I apologize. Thanks for the correction. I have too many things going on right now. The other question yeah, it's a question from CJ Dem saying, "So what you're saying, Cindy, is when in the woods, I don't need to be in fear of Sasquatch."
I I personally am not in fear of Sasquatch ever and never have. Most of the people that I know that have the connection have no fear of them. Now, there are going to be times when they'll scare the heck out of you. I mean, how could you not be startled by something? And you don't know if it's a cougar, a bear, a cat, or a squirrel or a Sasquatch. So, like, until you realize what it is, then you can maybe realize your level of scared. But the energy changes around you you become in an interdimensional space, so the energy and the woods change, so it might change the temperature might become ice cold, in a certain area, and it just feels sweet spot. That's what I call the portals, and that's just a portal. That has nothing to do with where the Sasquatch are. They don't just hang out at portals. uh, they can go anywhere. They come to your consciousness in the city, in the suburbs, at the golf
Mm.
course.
Okay.
They took my friend's keys from his truck. He's a trucker, and they took his keys for a couple days. Okay, and then laid them back right where he left them. So it's an interesting um, relationship, and it is a relationship in some way.
So there's two questions. I'm gonna ask the first one second and second one first, because a lot of times I mention this often. I don't know if somebody's genuinely wanting to ask questions about the subject, or if they're just basically putting out anything that's silly out there to basically make fun of, the interaction, going, "Oh my God, look at these idiots, they'll believe in anything." But this particular statement, whether it's meant that way, and this person, I've seen him on here before, so I don't know that he means it in a I guess silly way, but it's a question that I wouldn't have thought of. So it's up to you whether or not you want to answer it. But the 5D raver says, "Have they ever had sex with humans in the woods?"
Well, actually, I believe there are a long history of that. Yeah, I mean, you can hear. I don't think too many people talk about it. I don't think it happens like right now, but I think in the past it has. Um, it's a different interaction style now. There was bartering where they were considered a sentient life form. Right now, we consider them an anomaly
Right.
and a threat. So they steer clear from us.
Okay. So then the other question is from Basil Sorbet again, saying, "What do you recommend to do as the quote right respectable thing, end quote, as we build a home in the woods, and would like to let them know we want to be good caretakers of this beautiful land?"
Oh, that's a great question, and I have a lot of people come to me and ask me what can they do. And so it's like they have a connection that can be anywhere at any time. So time and space means nothing, um, but repetition does mean something. So repetition is in your mind as you walk through your own front door every day. You could say, I welcome you to my home. You could, as you drink coffee each morning, I wonder if you're out there. It's repetition of thought and understanding and intention. So I would say if it was my property, I would go to all four corners of my property and I would put piezoelectric rocks there. What is that? That would be quartz, something electrical. And so they can feel that and put that energy there, and then put something in the center of your property that's also quartz so that it can be a conductor of the energy coming around. And then make intentions at each of the four corners about your incidents with Sasquatch, that you will honor them, you will treat them well, that they're fully respected there, and that you would like for them to teach you something. And if that was all that was laid out as a repetitive motion, then sentient life might come there. If you fill the area with, oh my God, I hope they don't, scare me, or I hope they don't tear down this, or I hope, are they going to bring a dog man with them? Or, like, don't fill the area with that intention. Fill it with another intention on a repetitive basis. And this is how you can meet them in dream time on your own property. But, honoring your own property, if you honor the property, you honor the flora, you pay attention, give your attention to the woods and the grass and the trees and the sky there. This is how they live.
Okay. Just real quick for those asking questions, thank you very much. I appreciate you participating. It just makes it a lot more interesting, and Cindy can get to share all these things that she knows that I might not know to ask, because I know I usually ask people, please ask me a question. Otherwise, I don't know what's pertinent or important to you for me to cover regarding a certain subject. But regarding questions, if I missed your questions, I apologize, but please make sure it's important. I put that in the chat several times. My message will pop up with this yellow UFO hub. It says, please use the 3 stars before your question, because it pops out at me easier, so that way I know it's meant as a question for Cindy, instead of me having to figure out, are you chatting with someone else in the group, or or what. So I missed one particular person. I'm sorry about that. It was from ABC123 asking if are there Sasquatch in Connecticut?
I am, yes, actually, that's the state that I spoke to the elder shaman um, of one of the tribes with the land. That he had to change the alchemy of the land because the Sasquatch had left.
Okay.
That was
And
connected.
there was just the same person follow up saying, or further up this East Coast, perhaps.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could almost name any state in the union, and they're there, especially Canada too. So
Right.
even Florida, they're everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you were to ask and they know your intentions, would they allow you to take a picture and film them, even though they're very reserved when it comes to that? I mean, what would you do to potentially gain that trust, so they know where you're coming from and what it is that you're trying to do with pictures and photos and video? I mean,
Okay, that's a great question because everyone, of course, wants a photo, and sometimes they will project their consciousness into a photo for you that you didn't take. That's an understanding, but it is almost a spiritual um, infiltration to take photos of their consciousness. I think it's something sacred that is not to be messed with. Now, I know in the research that I've been involved in and what other people have told me is that, anytime that audio has been brought out, video and audio, um, oftentimes the Sasquatch will slap the video camera out of the hands of the person, or they will come behind the video camera where you can hear them on the camera, but you can't see them because they know what it is. They have sonar, they understand. So I just, I know that they steer way clear, always of the, there might be an occasional photo, like you can catch a Sasquatch off guard. Like, they might be sentient and they might be able to go through a portal, but you might catch one, on the ground eating some grub and catch them off guard. It's like, come on, they're not so perfect. And you might catch the image, but they also might have the ability to scrub that image off of your digital process. So what I do know is that you are welcome in the woods with an audio device. You are not welcome in the woods with a video device. They almost understand. Now, I do also have, that's with photos, but let's talk about guns. Same situation. If you're there with a gun as protection from them, they'll know it. If you're there with a gun for protection from a grizzly bear, they're fine with it. It's an interesting concept of intention. So,
That's
I
good
know a
to
lot of,
know. That's good to know because
yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
I don't know. I often, I mean, I've been, the reason why it was just quick background. Long time ago, when I finally moved out to the woods and then kind of started my own journey, prior to that, my friend and I, we were going camping almost every weekend for forever, and I just kept thinking, why am I not just moving out here and just live out here? Because I keep wanting to escape the city, and so not that I'm not a violent person by nature, but I will not sit back and not defend myself, and so we're always cautious because there's always bears, snakes, different things, so we'll always have some weapon with us, whether it be pistol, shotgun, rifle, whatever. And so I'm glad that they know and are kind of scanning us in that sense, that they know what our intentions are, that it's our fears of these other things necessarily that we want that protection from.
And the ones that understand your intention, that's a level. You might have to speak it into the woods. I'm carrying a gun, y'all, and it's not meant for you in any way. It's meant for my own protection against a bear. You might have to say that. You know, um, yeah, it works all different ways, and the sentient ability of each Sasquatch is going to be different. So you might be talking to a juvenile that doesn't have the ability quite yet of the sentience that the elders do, even though they live to be so old. I don't speculate how old, but quite old.
Right. There's another question from ABC123 says, where do Sasquatch sleep? I.e., are they in a visible state or invisible, perhaps?
Um, you know, I think people have found beds and bedding in the woods. They nap, of course, in places. They even make pens, little playpens out of wood, sticks for the babies to sleep in. And when I was interacting with that one family in North Carolina, that there was a cave on the property, and I got the mind speak. I also got imagery, and the imagery was of their cave area, and I swear it looked like Flintstones, kind of, you know, rock bed with some shrubs on it to lay on, and maybe a palm frond in the corner as decoration. You know, yeah,
Okay. Uh,
they sleep in caves. They sleep above the ground. I don't think they have to go
right.
invisible.
Well, this goes to go back real quick regarding recordings, and if you can speak to this, great. If not, I'm kind of we haven't discussed this at all, so I don't know if you can or want to talk about this. But have you ever heard of this particular recording that was done by Ron Moorhead, but then later analyzed by Scott Nelson? And I've had him on as interviews, and when I had the UFO Hub conference, I had him come to speak about this, what they call the samurai chatter. It's this recording.
Yes.
And so he
Yes.
basically if you, for those that don't know, you might know what his background is. He had this career in the Navy to basically transcribe human voice and codes and all this other stuff. So he was, knows these different languages, and basically his speciality is language. And so when he came across this, his son was asking him what a Sasquatch sounded like, and he was just making a whoop sound, just joking around, and then said, I don't know, let's look it up. And then came across this stuff, and he kind of was mesmerized by it. It still stumps me every time I hear him talk about it, or if I happen to rewatch some of it, how he talks about, he heard it, right? And he kept listening to it again and over again, the way he would do it in the Navy. And his son was like, Dad, like, what's wrong with you? Like he was almost possessed by it. And he says, there's language here. And he basically spent all this time since '08 breaking it apart. And so, not trying to divert you guys from this,
No.
but, possibly after this interview, check out, it's actually, it's in the download. It's on the upload videos. It was the one and only lecture series, UFO Hub lecture series that I had, and he actually did the whole presentation and showed the different recordings, and he breaks it down and talks about that. So check that out. But Cindy, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that, and I have had probably maybe 4 or 5 different researchers share with me audio recordings of what sounds like Asian language. A chattering between 2 or more beings that sound like 2 Chinese or Japanese, Asian, Korean, Thai, something. I'm not a
Right,
language expert, so I don't
right,
know,
right.
but I have heard the language myself, and I've heard it even in the Ozarks through the researcher I was there with.
Well, what's interesting, especially the ones that he analyzed, I just want to share this real quick, if you don't mind. He was talking about how we speak on the exhale part. When we're exhaling is when we're
Yes.
usually speaking. Very rarely will we, inhale and try to speak at the same time. Well, he broke that down in the sounds and in the video, or the lecture series that's also on UFO Hub. You can watch it. He says they speak on both ends. They speak exhaling and inhaling, which is amazing to begin with.
Yes.
And you can distinctly hear a male, female, and a juvenile in those 3 different recordings. I love his explanation, because some of the criticism he received, he says, either this is a mentally retarded Sasquatch, or it is a very intelligent Sasquatch wanting you to think that it is mentally retarded. And so it's like, it was a funny explanation, but so true, because because he always says, I'm not a Sasquatch guy, I'm a language guy, and there's language here. Now I wished he didn't do this during the conference, but I watched him at another place where he actually broke down the different sounds and all of that. I mean, he went into great detail of it. So, it's really amazing. So and he said whoever was collaborating with him, he would send it to him, and they said, well, this has aspects of Japanese in it. Then he sends it to Spain. He said, well, this has aspects of Spanish language in it, and so it was almost like this truly universal language, to where there's like words of almost every language in it.
Wow. Yeah, I totally believe that. And Mike Patterson's videos that he had up for quite a long time, Sasquatch Ontario, his Nefertia oftentimes would do the inhale. Uh, it was a really high
Yeah.
pitched, sound. It can start out really guttural and then go to this huge high pitched sound. And it was the inhale. Really, really amazing.
Okay. So the next question is also from Cooper Young. It says, could human beings go through one of these portals the Sasquatch use?
Uh, I don't feel that humans are ready to go through portals. Um, Sometimes humans can go through portals, and this is just a time dimensional hop, like a dimension hop. And sometimes you can just leave a doorway and come into another time space, and that's just a little bit of lost time, which I have had occur when you're doing, say, some type of intentional work on the land, and you're in a portal type area. You can actually leave, and but you don't feel like you've left anywhere, and then you realize that all kinds of time was gone. And it happened so severely one time that I was on a trail, and came back down the trail, and there were all new trail signs on every trailhead, like, but there was no one there banging on the trees. So
Hmm.
it's
Okay.
a yeah. So people can go through if by accident, like, but it's not something that you would know where you're going to end up, and it's quite risky.
Right. Or whether or not you can come back, if it's
Right,
for some
was
reason
risky.
collapses
Yes,
after. Right.
yeah, yeah.
There's two questions actually from ABC123, and I figured I asked them, and I guess you can go into whatever length you like on those. One is, can you divulge what town was it in North Carolina where those people flooded the Sasquatch cave?
I won't tell you the exact town, but I'll tell you the towns near it. It's Highlands and Cashiers, North Carolina. So it's just over the Georgia border. And there's a lot of, in northern Georgia, there's a lot of activity there too. But this was called the Highlands and Cashiers area.
Okay. And then the other question was, what's the relationship with Sasquatch and gray aliens? I listened to a story once about them being very close.
Yes. In my story, there's quite a bit of reference to them too, because the woman that was on the property, who had the Sasquatch on the property, had gray aliens. I mentioned this last time, but had gray aliens on her property that would walk across the pasture, pick up two baby Sasquatches, and walk across the pasture again, like they were babysitting. So um, there's been there are other people that can speak about this more eloquently. I just know that um, there is uh, a companionship with Sasquatch and Greys. Greys are drones. Greys do not have souls. Greys do what they're commanded to do. So I would assume that they're there to fly some ships, to babysit some kids, maybe work some, you know, electrical magic on the grid, and that's about it. Black magic on the, I'm not really fond of gray aliens.
Right.
Um,
And so, commanded by whom?
they
By
can be
other
commanded by
species of their
others.
faction?
Yes, they can be
Right.
commanded by other civilizations, off planet or on planet, or other beings. So I would assume that this is the same very deep spiritual lesson that we're trying to assimilate, is that how are we to love a gray alien? Well, the Sasquatch has become sentient with the gray alien. And here, I don't like them so much because I've had some incident. Well, I am to come to some kind of conclusion that gray aliens are not all bad, just like all reptilians are not all bad. But we have to come into a sentient understanding that all life forms, whether they have a soul or not, can be met with kindness and compassion. And if they, do not want to go through the process of compassion and kindness on the other side, then, you either mark an X and walk away or you deal with it.
Right. So the next question is, I'm sorry, I missed the spot because there's oh, here it is. It's from Daniel Pererva. Says, hi, are giants and Sasquatch related to one another?
I don't know about the exact relation. We are, you know, um, all related in some respect, But I do know that the areas where Sasquatch are heavily concentrated, there has been a lot of giant activity in the past. There seem to be sacred lands involved, and um, probably a similar mission, on Earth.
Okay. Do-do-do-do. Yeah, it's I just it says this one is from Cooper Young. Says, have you heard stories of drone versions of Sasquatch?
No, Sasquatch have souls. They are sentient life forms with souls and hearts, so they
Okay,
cannot be droned. Gray aliens can be droned,
right.
which
You know,
a clone, a drone. I just use those words kind of simultaneous. I'm not being very specific scientifically.
right. Yeah, you know, I'm trying to. I want to see if might not be able to get to it now, but you know, it's very interesting. When I was a long time ago, when I was kind of going through understanding these different things about ourselves, about these different alien races, and just generally what in the world is going on. And I had searching for it now because it was a something. It was almost like an answer to a question that I had, and it was seemed like so profound to me that I had to just kind of write it down. And I made a meme into it on my Instagram page, but I want to read it out properly so that um, so I'm not butchering it. And it's basically about um, it was an I guess I wrote it out in a form of an answer. I said, of course we are aliens to this planet. Most of the beings have evolved to better adapt to the environment in order to survive. Then look at the human, furless, vulnerable, living in a box. Everything works with nature, that is of nature, but not us.
Yeah,
And so it wasn't meant like in a negative way. It was just kind of like a obvious answer to, you know, if you see a bird, it works with the things around it in a very primitive way to create a nest. You know, a bear would use a cave, you know, and they don't. Other bears don't go kill other bears and then use their fur for more warmth, you know,
yeah,
and things like that. It was just kind of it was that kind of obvious. Um, I guess an example that was given to understand that, you know, there's more to us, you know, but that's, I guess, maybe a different subject.
it's but it's a very good one to bring up, while we're talking about Sasquatch, because there's a deep sentience to that, and here they've
Right.
adapted to the natural ways, and they've watched us stray away. Well, we blame humanity for it? Not really. You
Well, the
know,
proof that you can advance without building skyscrapers to prove that you're advanced.
yeah, yeah, that's right. I mean, um, we could advance this society in so many different ways if we hadn't been mind controlled by reptilians for hundreds of years.
Right. The next question is also from ABC123. Is there any relationship between the stories of Australian Aboriginals being able to disappear and the Sasquatch? Oh, I guess
Oh, like
the
the Sasquatch.
Australians. Yeah, right.
I have heard some amazing stories about indigenous shaman of Australia, and they um, tend to have a huge command of the toroidal field of the body. And the toroidal field of the body is exactly how the spins have to occur to be able to disappear. And so uh, it's almost like, well, it is like a radiation device in the body that excels out of the crown. And I know that the indigenous shaman have the ability to move matter with their mind. And this is the same activity that the Sasquatch can do. And this is also something that I have the skill of doing. When I woke up very different, that was one of the skills that I had. I didn't really realize what it was. But to be able
Right.
to move matter with your mind at a distance, which is like, healing through by long distance waves. So your body has to create a long distance wave pattern to be able to move through the dimensional fields. So I really feel that the Sasquatch have the ability to alter kind of time and space that way. Was that the original question? I, I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, the original.
I don't even know if I answered.
No, it was the relationship between the Australian, I
Oh
guess,
yeah, yeah.
Aborigines. Yeah.
I don't know about disappearing, absolutely disappearing, but they have very similar skills.
So would you? This other question is from Ho Hum. Are they fallen angels?
Uh, no, that would be see. I don't have a narrative, a religious narrative. I never grew up with any religion, so I don't have mythology stories of any kind. So I can't even answer that. It doesn't feel true or real to me.
Okay. Cindy, is there anything else? I'm waiting for other questions to come in. Did you cover all the subjects you wanted to cover?
Uh, I think uh, I think I did.
Okay.
Probably if I was winding it up, I would want to say, um,
No, no. The
how.
only reason I'm asking if
Yeah,
there's something else you wanted to go on, because I'm
not
sure
really,
I'm basically just
not
stalling for more questions. Because sometimes when I get distracted, having to listen and try to sift through questions, that's when I don't get
no, I
to
don't
come
really
up with
have
one of my
anything
own to keep
specific.
things going. Okay,
Yeah,
good deal. Yeah, I mean, are you good energy wise?
yeah, I'm okay.
If
Yeah,
okay, because I know you were saying sometimes depends on how long things go, your energy wanes down. So just let me know and we'll finish up. But things have been going great, and
yeah, it's
I'm
fine.
glad you finally be able to talk about what you need to talk about. I mean, what you need to talk about.
Yeah, sure.
So this other question is from Rob Horner. Says, do you think Todd Standing's 2012 documentary Discovering Bigfoot is a hoax?
I haven't watched TV in 10 years, so I can't speak to that.
Okay.
But I can tell you that the ones that I have witnessed just little excerpts of on the internet um, are manipulated to make people feel fear.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was, my wife and I, we came across a documentary. I wish I remembered what it was called, but it was, if true, was the most clearest pictures of Bigfoot I have ever seen. And it's basically out in the middle of nowhere, and he would have this camera going, and then they would be kind of peeking from behind trees, and it would be different types, some juvenile, some not. And so it made me really wonder, because it's not something I generally concentrated on very much. My focus has always been kind of this metaphysics, the spirituality, and ET connections, but haven't spent much time, considering been living in the woods since 2010. So always been, I would have thought that that's something that would have come to mind earlier for me to just kind of go out there, walk around, and see what happens.
Well, it's sometimes like I lived in a couple of places that I didn't even realize I was having Sasquatch experience before I even met the Sasquatch. So there's a property I was living on. It was about maybe 12-acre little farm, and I would just go out back and sit and watch the deer eat, watermelon or corn, and I would leave for them. And I would feel this presence, and I knew it was a large presence, physically large, is in consciousness, huge consciousness. And I wasn't sure if I was dealing with, fairies or interdimensional creature of some kind, but it felt very loving. And I would sit at this one place and I would just almost feel them hugging me, like whatever it was hugging me, and the air would get real thin, and time would just be real wishy-washy for a few minutes, kind of strange. And I would take a couple of photos. One time I took a selfie, and there was like this brown mist behind me.
Mm.
Still, I didn't know what that was. Until one day I went over to this dilapidated barn on the property and I was planting some flowers over in the corner. And I got too close to this barn, which I had never even walked over to because it was like halfway down. And as I got halfway to it, this is in the middle of the day with the sun shining nice, a tree came out of nowhere and fell right in front of my path as I'm walking right to this barn. And then another tree fell on the barn, and there's no wind. I'm like,
Wow.
okay. And then I'm in the house, and there's like bam, 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 bam on the side of the house or on the roof. And I'm like looking around, thinking it's a raccoon. I knew it wasn't a person, so I really didn't know until then. I met the Sasquatch. That's the house I was living in that I was sent to see the Sasquatch from. I knew then that they had been, trying to wake me up or trying to communicate, and I was too dense to see it. So, when you have property like you have, um, it's like I didn't even know to say anything. I
Right.
didn't even know to be inquisitive or be curious. So now people are understanding that they can, go to their neighborhood park. They can go to the forest. They can go to your own yard and communicate. And sometimes they will live there near the place you live and they will communicate with you that way, or they will live somewhere else and communicate with you etherically. Now, I know that sounds really woo woo, but that's how it works.
Right. Um, another question from ABC saying, do you have any? Oops, skipped forward. Oh, there it is. Can you talk more about the healing abilities of the Sasquatch and yourself? Do they share any similarities with the shamanic traditions?
Um, I have a memory that came up. Sometimes past life memories will come up for me. I really don't focus on them at all because I don't think they're very helpful. But this one came up, and it was me as a young Indian boy. And I think I might have told the story last time, but I got cut off. But anyway, a Sasquatch put their hand above my leg and at the bottom of my foot and ran light and sound through my leg to repair crushed bones. This is a memory I have.
Hmm.
Um, I do know that of a shaman, no, not a shaman, but an elder of a United States reservation, and he had some fallen off of a pretty high cliff and broken several bones. And he asked for assistance. And he had recorders in his house. And he had gray alien and Sasquatch in his home for weeks and weeks working with him. And he became very, he got better and better as time, and he was really broken. And he was living by himself, and so they helped him heal, and he could hear their chatter, just like you spoke about. That same chatter he had on audio recorder, and they were like over his body while he was sleeping, doing the chatter. So he assumed they were doing healing on him, but the shamanic energy, I consider I'll say that there are shamanic tendencies that I hold. I will never say that I am a shaman. I think that's an insult to First Nations and Native American people. But there are acquired skills that I have that are very similar to shaman, and uh, being able to move energy with your hand or your mind is exactly how the Sasquatch have learned how to manipulate energy. So there's a story of, I think it was Mike Patterson and his friend. They were in separate locations talking about marbles, and a marble that he had put out for the Sasquatch was gifted to his friend in another state just through the discussion of it. The Sasquatch dropped it for her.
Mm.
It's like, well, I think that's how it went, but it was something like that. And so it's a very intricate way of manipulating energy, and but they don't do it in a black magic way. Um, it's not for your. It can be for your fun and amusement. I That was mostly the what I saw, um, but the healing does happen. Um, I don't have too many more personal stories about it, but um,
Okay.
yeah.
The other one is also from ABC, and just whoever has a question, please do ask it, because even if it's a person that just keeps on wanting to know certain things, you're more than welcome to, because that's what this platform is for. Whether that question came from one person or five different people, it's still valid, and it will still jot to open up a new box of information to be shared. But don't be afraid. Cindy doesn't bite, as you've noticed. She is more. If she can answer it, she'll answer. Otherwise, I'm hoping you find the answer somewhere else. But always, please remember, use the three little stars before your question, so it'll pop out at me, and then I know you have the question for Cindy. So this one is also from ABC123, saying, do you have any thoughts or relationship about or with Kawani Lefseritis, the Sasquatch researcher?
Oh yes, Kawani is a personal friend of mine. I do know that he has had some pretty very interesting over the many years of his research that he's had some really interesting occurrences where there was one. I think it was a female. Her name was Hello. I think it was Helote. I'm not sure. I may have that totally wrong. But that they communicated in writing in English, and he was ridiculed most of his life for it, and he's still standing. Some people don't uh, care for others who speak about these crazy anomalies.
Right. Because I was originally, I didn't mention it in the very beginning. About a month and a half ago, I was actually scheduled this Friday to actually do the live stream with Kawani. And yesterday we did a test stream, and it didn't quite work out. And so I had already talked to Cindy and said I would like to have you on just to make up for all the different whatever happenings were happening last weekend. Well, I couldn't I couldn't establish the connection, and he basically is using satellite to chat or to make the connection to the internet. So it didn't work out. We pushed it off again for another 3 weeks. And then last minute, I just contacted Cindy. I said, would you be interested? I'm sorry, it's such a short notice. I didn't, in a way, didn't expect this. And she was more than willing to, which is great, I think, because it just kind of coincides from last weekend, this weekend, and then to finally
Yeah,
make up what we couldn't make up last Friday.
yeah,
But yeah, eventually, if I manage to work out the connection issues, and because he was saying he's not that well versed with the computer, so I was trying to talk him through certain things, but sometimes when you don't know certain terms, you're just not sure
yeah,
where to go and what to do. But I'm sure it will
yeah,
work out. So there's another attempt 3 weeks from now, and so we'll see what happens with that. But
yeah.
a quick question for Rob Horner. There's looks like you made a statement, and I'm not quite sure what it says. Where you said, "I think you just described what I'm talking about." If you could maybe, because you put three stars there, so it popped out at me. If you can describe a little bit more what you meant by that, I'd appreciate it in the chat. Another question is, what are the earliest references or stories to do with Sasquatch that you know of in art or history books? And that was also from ABC.
Oh gosh, what a good question. I haven't really done too much research of that, you'd think I would have. I'm an artist. Um, I don't know. I think I've seen some reference to them in early texts, like, I don't know, 1800s or something. But um, I know there are hillbillies in the mountains of North Carolina that have written stuff about woolly boogers.
Mm,
And woolly boogers, I believe, would be have been Sasquatch. Um, but I don't know specifically. That's a really good question, and I'd love to know if there are some really good art references from whatever era
right.
about them. But I'm sure there's something.
Just something real quick regarding locations and possibilities, like where they can show up, or that they're not really constricted to a certain area. It's just something that I haven't really talked about it in a while, and I'll make it short. It popped into my head, when you get into these kind of things, doing what I do with ufohub, and just all these things that I constantly go to these meetings and all that. My parents really don't care, and so, but they know that I'm kind of that weird person that if there's something weird to be talked about, they can come to me. So generally, it's not brought up unless something happens and they're like, "Oh, I need to speak to you about this." So this was years ago now, but my mom, she was like, "I saw the oddest thing," and this was in St. Louis, and she was going, I think, 64, Highway 64 in St. Louis. I don't know exactly which direction. And she said, she was passenger, I believe. My mom and dad were going somewhere. And she said, I was looking at this, and this is, she's just straight faced without even thinking about what she's trying to tell me here, or how absurd it may initially seem. She's like, I saw this monkey on the side of a road. He was really tall and big, and I was trying to, I was wondering why would the monkey be there? Maybe I thought he escaped from the zoo. And she just talking about it so matter of factually, and just describing what she saw without really putting any kind of judgment on it, that yes, she
Yeah,
knows it's Sasquatch or whatever she kept observing, whatever came to her mind, that's how she spit it out to me, and I was like, that could very well be Sasquatch, and she's like, and so we talked about
oh,
that a little bit, but it's just funny how, I guess if you call them normies that are not into this kind
yeah,
of stuff, when they witness things that are so weird and different, they just go with the plain, simple explanations that then later, I guess, fills in all the gaps in their vocabulary and mind.
yeah. I spoke to somebody just a couple months ago. They were here fixing my washing machine, and I said, "Well, you're from the area?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, had any Sasquatch sightings up in here?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, over on Highway so and so. I see him all the time running over the guardrail." Like, okay, just they knew exactly what turn curve in the road that they see him all the time, and they don't really bother him or even want to care. It's just
Right.
something that happens. You know, very
Um,
interesting.
I am just a little shift here happened, and I'm trying to figure out exactly why. There we go. Got you fixed again. I hope it doesn't split. I hope it doesn't split back up. But I witnessed that before with Skype. The resolution just goes a bit smaller. It's not a problem. It's just a little the resolution switch up for some reason, and so I just have to go in and fix it up because usually full screen, and then it just goes up to the corner. Anyway, so let me see what else. What are the questions we have here? Yeah, I'm glad there's some interactions with people talking to each other, and which is great. I
Yeah,
just I
they've
just
had
wanted
good
to see,
questions.
yeah, I just wanted to see what else there might be out there, because sometimes I keep repeating when I have to talk about certain things. I keep repeating my own stories, because those are the main parts that I always think people would want to know, and only when a
Hmm.
specific detailed question is asked, then I can branch out and be like, oh yeah, let's talk about this
Yeah,
part. But
yeah,
it doesn't happen until somebody jots that chain of thought.
yeah. That's right.
But yeah, I had
Yeah, because there's a lot of things I don't even know what people might be curious about. Um,
right.
it was also surprising to me that I'm not sure like at what surprise level people are at anymore.
Right. Well, one thing that I'm definitely with all these things going on, I want to just take the time and walk around this beautiful property, because there's, such a beautiful scenery, and sometimes through a wooden area, it opens up to see that you're more of a top of a hill or a mountain, and then you kind of see further out, and it looks, very beautiful. And so just generally, that would be something for me personally to start looking into. I've always just been more concentrated on one way of, I guess, one way of metaphysical types, if that makes sense. That
Yes,
there
I
is,
understand what you're
yeah.
saying.
And there was,
So
I
now
think, go ahead.
it's about physically being on the land now
Right,
with your body and the toroidal field of your body and the consciousness and intention of your body on the land. It really communicates to, the trees communicate, and I know that the Sasquatch have a very sentient way of communicating with animals and plant
right,
life. So if you're communicating with the plants and trees on your property, you can ask them to
right.
also
There
come.
was one question, and I'm hoping, I think I might have missed it. It was something about, somebody asked it. I don't know if I can go back, or trying to find it now, in a timely matter. It was something about, oh, okay, I found it. Perfect. This one's from Cooper Young. It says, is there a strong relationship between Sasquatch and the nature spirits or Fae?
Oh, I think there are in the area where I was sent to the Highlands Cashiers area. There are a lot of little people, evidence of little people, real evidence of little people, like from the university. And so I have always felt like, the Fae or little people were, sentient life with Sasquatch in the same era and time as them. They were inner earth beings together, and coming out of the inner earth onto the surface of the earth, they make their way. And over the years, they've been able to, or the centuries, they've been able to, find places that they can live on top of the ground and not be detected. But there is a lot of evidence of them in the same area, so I can imagine that they would.
Right. So here's another one-off question. I guess, I don't know if we should even entertain this. The 5D raver, I appreciate it, but sometimes the questions, I'm not sure if you're being serious or really wants to know. But what the heck? Just for fun, I'll ask it. It says, is that hairy creature in Star Wars a Sasquatch?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that is
Uh,
Sasquatch.
so the other one is from Crypto Mojito, says, where could one vacation to best experience Sasquatch?
Oh, God. Um, the Pacific Northwest is a hotbed because they grow huge there. We're talking, 12, 16 foot. And so you pick Mount Shasta, you pick Mount Hood, you pick any of these places, and you go there. There's a real good chance you could, but you could also just pick, right down the road here in North Carolina. There's some lakes, and Marion, North Carolina, has a lot. They have a festival there, but they have a lot of sightings in the Urari forest. The Urari forest is huge with activity. So you can find places that have activity, and then go there, um, see how you do. Just just announce your presence before you go.
Right.
Set your intention before you go. Like set your itinerary. Like Sasquatch, I'm flying to see you.
I think that kind
Sasquatch,
of,
I'm driving to see you.
right, that kind of answers the other question that was the next one coming up, says, how would you meditate? How would you meditate specifically to communicate with Sasquatch? And I think you just kind of covered that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're meditating, it would be a little different activity, but sometimes you can sit and have tea with them, sit and have coffee with them and just have a discussion, just like you could with any sentient, multidimensional being. or deity. But to communicate at a heart level is done through song, through singing, through dance, through life, through creativity. It's the communication can happen any way. I'll tell you, I was this happens like when I paint Sasquatch for a long period of time. I'll have communication. I painted bears recently for a week, uh, and a bear showed up in my backyard. So it's like the consciousness uh, is drawn to your
Well,
consciousness.
not to
So
not to
where
make
would you
light of
like to
it.
go?
Yeah, not to make
Mhm.
light of it, but it's almost similar to when you, you go and you purchase a car and you didn't necessarily see this car on the road that often, but the second you're with it, you have that car, you bought it, it's yours, you see them all everywhere. It's almost like
Yeah,
you switch that frequency and now they're visible to you wherever you look. I'm
yes.
sure there's
And then
another
and then
scientific term for that, but I'm pretty sure
yeah, and go
most
too
people
far
understand what I'm
too, and then
talking
that's
about.
called Sasquatch eyes. Like you only see things through Sasquatch eyes, and that's kind of a malady that has hit the Sasquatch communities, and it's where they can't see outside of Sasquatch, and they think everything that happens in their life is because of Sasquatch, and they're kind of limiting their own soul's progress and their own soul's ability by limiting themselves just to Sasquatch.
Right.
Uh,
This
yeah.
next question is from Cooper Young saying, do certain clans of Sasquatch have certain purposes or designated tasks? Thank you, Cindy. You are a blessing.
Um, like I think we answered a similar question earlier, but it is like this. Some clans are here to be loving, community minded beings, and then others are more like teaching others lessons. Others are communicating on a spiritual, metaphysical level. Others are communicating, leaving footprints. So it's like every one of them has their own interest or ability, or they just don't even want to talk to a human or see one. I'm gonna not see one, but yeah, they have all different abilities. Um, some I know of a lady in Colorado who has been taught how to disappear, and I think that if she was really mindful, that she probably could.
Okay. This other question is from official Quantum Nova asking, are the Sasquatch community aware of that famous Patterson Gimli video, that blurry video of the first Bigfoot sighting? And do they know who of their kind was in it?
Do the Sasquatch? Was he saying?
Basically, are
Do
they
the
yeah, are
Sasquatch
they
know about
aware
that?
of that footage that
Oh,
it's kind of
I would say that there's a sentience that reaches a level of like the Sasquatch nation, understanding everything about the Sasquatch as a humanity. That doesn't mean that every little Sasquatch understands what their humanity is dealing with. Just like our humans, some are, drinking beer, and others are like looking at the collective consciousness. So the same thing with maybe Sasquatch elders looking at the consciousness of the collective of the Sasquatch nation. And what that would be is, um, we've had a sighting to the humans that is so large that now the exposure is going to grow.
right.
I'm certain that they understand that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that would be interesting, especially if you know that they're aware of certain things, makes you wonder if they're aware to that extent.
Yeah. Well, there's an awareness and then there's a level of care. Like there's so much in our matrix that they don't care about, you
Right.
know, that they don't, there's no reason for them to care, like governments and politics and big pharma. And,
Mm,
they don't.
right. Okay. Well, Cindy, what do you think? We kind of come to a natural conclusion here,
Yeah.
uh, if you're okay with that. And
Yeah. I think
yeah, I
so.
think we got a huge variety of questions answered. I think it worked out great. I've just towards the end here. the screen kept shifting bigger, larger, but that's not that big of a deal. It was just something I noticed. Skype did that to another guest of mine before, but
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to say what you needed to say because I felt bad. It's like, why? Because you were literally the first one. I was like, I'm really sorry. I have a pretty good connection here. It's close to gigabyte connection, and so I shouldn't have any issues having your signal come in and then taking my camera like this and then all sending it out. So what's the problem? So, but yeah,
It's called infiltration.
right,
It's called shut up,
right,
Cindy.
right.
Um, what I was going to say is that I do spiritual counseling. So if people want to contact me and talk about their Sasquatch encounter or how they would approach them or what's happening on their land, I really enjoyed those conversations with people. Um, I go much deeper than that. I'm into quantum physics, and I understand people's uh, time frames, their timelines, and the node points that create these opportunities for them for change or opportunity for acceleration into what their truth might be. So if you wanted to contact me, just email me. Also, I'm also offering that Template of Grace meditation series for free for the people that are viewing this. And all you'd have to do is email me at knowingdoe@yahoo.com, which is below. Um, and I will get that template out to you. It's 11-day activation of grace. It's very powerful also. But if you wanted to contact me for those things, I'm currently not doing energy healing, kind of conserving my energy for myself right now. But I am open for spiritual consulting. So.
And the site that you have with your art, how does that, is that just, I guess, do you go about it like every artist does to where whatever inspires you, that's what you'll paint, or was there more specific reasons?
Actually, when I first started painting, I was being given these beings that started coming into my mind, and they were from this area called the cosmic pools, and they were kind of an angelic version of nature. So I was seeing these heightened and vibrational color schemes around a fox or a dove or a bird, and so I was painting these deer and bear and everything, and so that's I end up connecting with them before I start painting, and sometimes I have no idea what's going to come out. But I've been painting Sasquatch and Dogman and other things, and so I have a website there that. But most of it's on my Facebook page. I just put them up there. I do have them in a gallery in Asheville. Some of my bigger paintings. I do some large ones.
Okay,
Thank you for asking. That's really my love, my joy. If I could just paint all day, I would be happy.
right.
But there's some service I have to do
Yeah,
too.
and all the links, of course, are in the description below. Cindy, I wanted to. I know we were closing up, but there were three questions that came up, and others were
Okay.
referencing to another question, asking, "Is it possible to answer it?" I wanted to ask if I could just those three, and then we'll make that be it for
Sure.
sure. So one here is from ABC again, which was it says, "What impact will deforestation have on the Sasquatch community, and do they ever communicate about this?"
Oh, they communicate about this probably primarily over everything else that I've ever had. Anytime there is a Sasquatch incident, it's usually about deforestation or taking down of trees. There have been some pretty awkward incidents of whole clans that had to leave sacred areas, like I was mentioning before in Connecticut, because of deforestation. That and encroaching development. So this is going to be a continual issue, and um, I believe that the abilities of the Sasquatch will probably enhance so that they can move about the earth a little more unencumbered and keep themselves a little safer. But I think that we're coming upon a time where there's going to be a neutral energy that we can all work with to connect with them and it not be such a skew of frequency, you know.
Okay, and I'm trying to cover some that have not, that are just new to the channel, because I want to give them that opportunity to have a chance to ask. And if someone already had asked it, I'm sorry, I might not ask your question. But this one is from Tana Khalid. It says, in a face-to-face encounter, is it disrespectful to hold eye contact?
No, I have not heard that that is disrespectful. You'll know, you'll know immediately if this is something that is wanted by them or not. They can produce an energy from their being that is volatile and disruptive to your being.
Mm,
And so I think that would happen before the eye contact.
I
So
see.
I don't think that that is an issue, and I don't. Yeah.
Well, all these great questions, come in now when
Yeah.
it's time to go. They're like, one
That's
last,
okay.
one last.
You can go. You can ask if you have one
Well,
more.
there was one that actually I'm interested in, and it was, I guess the 5D Ravers is asking, something that I know he's not making a joke out of it. It says, what do they eat?
What do they eat? Well, I know we have, seen and heard witness of them eating deer, rabbit, but a lot of fruit and a lot of vegetable, like from wherever.
Right.
So um, we've seen them in apple trees and pear trees and stealing corn out of fields and mushrooms out of fields, herbs out of herb gardens. But I think they have a pretty clean standard diet. But they'll eat power bars and candy bars and stuff too.
Oh, wow. Okay. I guess,
Yeah.
well, I mean, in a way, it shows that, kind of, there's always been this constant fight between veganism and meat eaters, and that one is supposed to be more advanced, more enlightened. But it shows that when you have such, delicate beings, and be that advanced and still eat meat, that it's more about where you come from and not exactly what it is that you consume. It's not always have to be looked at something negative, because at the end of the
Yes.
day, I mean, a mushroom is alive too, that you ended, that you consumed, just
That's
because
right.
it
Everything
doesn't,
has consciousness.
right?
Every single thing has consciousness. So, you're eating grass, that grass has consciousness. Cut a flower, flower has consciousness.
Right, right. Okay, so last one then. This one is basically just people that are new. So I would like to, have
Sure.
this, put out there for them. So, Lightning Will I Am Robin. That's the name. How does Sasquatch deal with reptilians?
Oh, very interesting. I bet that they don't take any shit. I just have that feeling, that there are humans on the earth that don't take any shit from reptilians. So like I can imagine that Sasquatch wouldn't either. Because I think they have their own command of their own dimensions, and I think they're really almost like angelic on the cosmic plane, and reptilians are very low vibrating, and they don't have souls. So
Okay. All right. Well, so as we were covering a bit earlier, regarding the different websites, please check out some of the websites that Cindy has to offer. And, I hope at least some follow-up questions that you didn't get to ask. I'm sure you can contact Sydney, and if she has some time, she'll get back to you. So, Cindy, thank you very much again. And I hope we can do
thank
this
you.
again sometime in the future. I'm glad we made up this time for the previous interruptions, but I think everything went a lot better, knock on wood. And, because I was telling you on the phone jokingly too, I was saying, I'll tell my guys to tell those guys to quit it,
Yes. Yeah.
whatever it is.
Let's have a calm
Right,
day. Yeah.
whatever was going on. So I do,
I
yeah,
enjoyed
I
it.
appreciate it, and I know, I guess maybe because I'm finally switched up to something new other than UFOs, it's been more receptive. People wanting to hear from you and are interacting more in chat, and then of course the questions that come in after. So it's something to spark people's interest. So I'm glad I had you on.
Yeah, that's great. And anything we can do to pass on the message that the Sasquatch are a sentient, kind community
Right, right.
is
Well, so everyone watching, thank you very much. Cindy, thank you again. And I'll chat with you in a bit. But for those of you who've logged in today, I appreciate you spending your time with us. Next week, I will please pay close attention to the community tab under the UFO Hub channel, because that's where I will be posting whether or not I'll be canceling any kind of open lines or interviews for that week, because it's really getting to the final stages and due dates for the baby. So I'm wanting to see if it happens. I'll take off for the week, and then we'll resume the week after. So look out for that. Again, as I mentioned, check out the different websites for Cindy, and give her, a patron the sites. And Cindy, again, thank you. We'll stay in touch, of course. So everyone, take care and have a good night.